So some interesting news regarding WWE possibly working with other companies going forward and opening their own forbidden door. Now, while the forbidden door has been opened across the world of professional wrestling with the likes of AEW, Impact Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling all working together to build working relationships, talent sharing and other relationships, WWE has remained distant from such kind of deals, but that looks to be changing in the near future. This is according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter's Dave Meltzer. According to Dave Meltzer, WWE is currently in talks with Court Bauer's Major League Wrestling. Now, if a deal is struck between the two companies, it would be a similar deal to the partnership WWE had previously with Evolve before they bought the company, and WWE developmental talents would be featured on MLW television. Now, Meltzer noted that WWE are reportedly unhappy about being framed as unwilling to work with other companies, and they want to change that image. WWE also believes partnering with other promotions would, quote, alleviate the frustration of superstars who are signed by the company but then never use, especially since there haven't been any NXT house shows in over a year because of the current global pandemic. Now, if anything will come from these talks and with MLW ultimately remains to be seen, but Meltzer did note, quote, this is a totally new WWE under Nick Khan. That, of course, Nick Khan being WWE's new president of the company. Now, when I read this, I mean, there is so much to get into when it comes to that. There really is so much to get into when it comes to that story. I find it a bit odd. I do find it a bit odd because obviously MLW just announced a TV deal with Vice. And I don't understand why MLW, of course, they would want to work with WWE. If they could figure out some kind of working relationship with WWE, most companies, most smaller companies, of course, they would want to work out a deal with WWE. The NWA, I know they've got a relationship with AEW, but they would want to work out a deal with WWE. Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, AEW. All of these companies would want to work out a deal with WWE. Of course, it benefits them. We can criticize WWE as much as we want. Lord knows I have, and I know a lot of people have their frustrations with WWE. But let's be honest here. I mean, let's be completely frank and clear here. They are still the biggest pro wrestling company in the world. They have the biggest exposure in the world. For their faults, they are very good at making money. And obviously, any pro wrestling company wants to be involved in making money because it's a difficult industry to make money in. So every company would want to. That's my point. Again, I do find the timing a bit odd considering that MLW have just got this TV deal with Vice. I know, obviously, it's not the biggest TV deal in the world, but it's TV. And MLW has been slowly growing over the course of the last few years. I think the way that they were managed during the pandemic, I think was fantastic. Credit has to go to Court Bauer because at the height or the beginning of the pandemic last year, he went, right, take it all off of television. Let's figure out how to do this and how to do it properly. They took their time. They reestablished things. They figured out how to do these TV tapings during the pandemic when it comes to social distancing, testing, mask wearing, hand sanitizing, you name it. And when they came back, every single person that worked those MLW TV tapings since then, they said, look, MLW is a really well-run ship. And MLW has kind of been the door for certain talents to get back into the world of pro wrestling. It really has. When it comes to people like Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone was doing commentary for MLW. Then he went to AEW. Bruce Pritchard was working as a producer for MLW before he went back to WWE. Now, obviously, his podcast played a part in that. But my point being that MLW, they've opened the door for a lot of people. And they've got a good crew there. They do have a really good crew there, and they've got some fantastic talent on their roster as well. So, obviously, I think WWE is looking at a variety of different things when they want to build a relationship with MLW. I think the idea where I kind of just roll my eyes a little bit at that report by Dave Meltzer is where he says that WWE is frustrated of having this image of being unwilling to work with other companies. That's their own doing. That's like me being frustrated that I'm wearing a red hoodie. I mean, that's my choice. I decided to put this hoodie on, and it's the same with WWE. They've decided they've been unwilling to work with these companies for years. And that's what WWE does. It's what they've always done when it comes to working with other promotions. WWE has a terrible record of working with other companies in recent years. Yes, they worked with ECW in the 1990s during the Monday Night Wars. That was very, very beneficial for them. But they don't have the best record in working with other companies because they get everything they want out of this relationship and more. And again, this idea of being, we're so we're unhappy of this image that we're unwilling to work with other companies, that's because historically that's always been the case. And I don't want to come across like one of those people that's just AEW, I'm such, because I'm not an AEW mark by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a fan of AEW. I'm a fan of WWE. I'm a fan of MLW. I'm a fan of Impact Wrestling. I'm a fan of pro wrestling, good pro wrestling, and like anything, pro wrestling's like watching movies. You like what you like, and you like and you don't like what you don't like. You can't really change that. And when it comes to WWE not being able to work with other companies, look, AEW has proven that that's possible, and it's possible to do it successfully without having all of these difficulties and without stomping your foot and trying to bully other companies and trying to get what you want and not being able to negotiate and move and budge and all that kind of stuff. For years, we've heard this narrative, and this isn't just a WWE thing, by the way. This goes back to the territory days, really, doesn't it? And part of the issues of like the National Wrestling Alliance in the golden age of pro wrestling is that it was always that territories couldn't work together because they always wanted to get their talent over, or they wanted to get what was best for them. And we kind of just been conditioned as a pro wrestling fan that that's just how it worked. Companies couldn't work together. They had to be rivals because they're all competing in the same space. So they have to be rivals. They have to hate each other and all that kind of stuff. And AEW's kind of proved that's not really the case. That obviously different companies are different sizes. They kind of, I think nowadays most companies know where they are on the totem pole when it comes to the professional wrestling industry, and they're all willing to work together if it benefits them in some way. And AEW has proved to be very right in that. They've got working relationships now with the NWA, with Impact Wrestling, with New Japan Pro Wrestling, with AAA, and they're kind of making WWE look a bit foolish in the sense that for years you would have thought, or WWE would have said, we can't work with these companies because they're just impossible to work with, or they'll want this, they'll want that, and AEW have kind of proved them wrong. So I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know if realistically as well, WWE would be this company that they would start negotiating with MLW just because they felt that their image looked bad. They don't care about that. I've said this time and time again here on the channel, and it's worth repeating here. WWE doesn't care about bad PR or their image or anything like that, especially in the professional wrestling industry. WWE doesn't care about their image. They might care about their wider image in terms of like mainstream media and PR and stuff like that. They really don't care about their image in the pro wrestling industry. Do you think WWE cares what pro wrestling journalists think of the way they look, or pro wrestling fans think of the way they look in terms of working with other companies? Of course they don't. They really, really don't care about anything like that. So I don't think they would be negotiating with MLW because they're not happy with how they look or anything like that. That's nonsense, to be honest. That's absolute nonsense. I think what they do care is they see a company like MLW, they see the talent that they have, whether it's Hammerstone or Fatu or whoever. They see guys like that and they say, we want to get them. We want to get them under contract. And it was the same with Evolve. Evolve had all of these great talents under contract, or talents that worked for them. And by having that relationship with Evolve, they were able to get first dibs on your Keith Lees, your Aleister Blacks, Austin Theories, those names that came through there. Matt Riddle, those names that came through there and had a relationship with Evolve, it made it easier for WWE to sign them or to have discussions with them and all that kind of stuff. And they're looking at MLW the same way. What does that say about the Performance Center? What does that say about WWE's ability to recruit talent in terms of their own scouting network? That's another question, and that's another debate that we'll have at a later date. But I think that's realistically what it is. They want the talent. They want the talent of MLW. They've probably spoken to MLW as well by saying, well, we could maybe get you on the network. Again, I don't know how that works now, considering they're on Peacock. I don't know how that would work as well. But WWE, they're looking at MLW mostly for the talent and maybe for the library at some point as well. That's what they want. That's what they want. They want the financial side of things. How does it benefit WWE? They really don't care how it benefits MLW, which is how these working relationships have to work. That's how it's been proved, that you have to have a mutually beneficial relationship, but also you need to be hoping that they benefit from it, and it's just WWE doesn't do that. They just don't. So I think when it comes to the talent of working these MLW tapings, because there haven't been any NXT house shows, I think that's a good idea, and that's WWE adapting to the current world that we're living in right now. I think that makes a lot of sense, to be honest. We don't know when house shows are going to come back, and I've mentioned this before. The idea that house shows are going to come back in the same vein that they did previously is nonsense, because COVID has changed everything, not just in pro wrestling, but in the world. Everyone's adapting, and we're trying to figure out what the new normal is at this point. And I think WWE are trying to figure that out as well, with fans returning, with live events going forward, with their own developmental system at the Performance Center, with those events going forward, NXT, you name it. They're trying to figure that out. And maybe having a relationship with MLW does allow these superstars that can't get onto NXT. And again, NXT is a confusing space right now because it is a third brand, but it's kind of moved back to being a bit developmental and being distant from Raw and SmackDown. But at the same time, there is going to be NXT Evolve coming soon, which has got Gabe Sapolsky and Jeremy Borash working on it. That's going to be coming to the WWE Network or Peacock soon. Or it's just a really confusing space. Does that happen if they have a relationship with MLW? I don't know. I really don't know how that whole thing works out. So I mean, look, Meltzer said it's a totally new WWE under Nick Khan. Whilst he is the president and he obviously has considerable say in that company, it's still Vince McMahon's company. And the idea that WWE fundamentally is going to change how they work because Nick Khan's in there, again, I struggle to believe that. It's Vince McMahon's company, and Vince McMahon will be Vince McMahon. Thinking that Vince McMahon will change his perception on working with other companies, this is the guy that destroyed the territory system and ate up every other territory in the past. Why would he now, in his 70s, suddenly decide, you know what, I've got to start working with other companies again. I've got to rebuild the territory system that I actively destroyed. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So I don't believe that. I do believe that WWE would want to work with MLW in the sense that they want the talent, they possibly want some footage on their network, and also they might want a place so that they can send their talent to work these TV tapings with the absence of house shows. That makes more sense to me. But I don't know with MLW, like I said. They've got their deal with Vice right now. They've got their own stars. They're coming along nicely. I don't know. It's an interesting one. And WWE doing it for the sake of, we really care about the image that we don't want to work with people. Again, I think that's laughable. I really do think that's laughable because they don't care. They don't care. But it's an interesting story about Shadow of Dan. I'm sure it's something that will progress over the course of the next few weeks and months. Speaking of the next few weeks and months, SummerSlam. Now, SummerSlam, this is interesting, isn't it, when it comes to what's going on in terms of SummerSlam? Because you would think that SummerSlam is going to be the next big location, big pay-per-view rather, big event that's going to have a big location. And I say a big location, I mean fans obviously returning once again to WWE for the first time since WrestleMania 37. Now, WWE is reportedly moving forward with plans to take the 2021 SummerSlam pay-per-view on the road. Now, a new report from WrestleVotes on Twitter, and they're very, very reputable. They very rarely get stuff wrong, so I think this is very credible, notes that there is, quote, a hot SummerSlam location rumor going around, one that would excite a lot of people. Now, WWE has not made a decision on the SummerSlam location because details are still being worked out. It was noted that an announcement should come sometime after June, as many cities are starting to open up and lift their COVID-19 restrictions. Now, no other details were provided, but it was said that Boston is likely, quote, doubtful for the host city. Of course, Boston was scheduled to host SummerSlam last year, so that's why they're mentioning that. It was reported last week that WWE was considering Phoenix, Arizona, or somewhere in Texas for the biggest show of the summer. It was also said that WWE is looking to hold the show outdoors in a stadium setting this year with fans in the crowd. That would make SummerSlam the first show with fans since WrestleMania 37. Now, WWE Chairman and CEO Vince McMahon was said to be determined to have fans at the 2020 SummerSlam event. Which, looking back, is laughable. It really is laughable. But it'd be interesting to see if they can make it happen after this year's successful WrestleMania 37 weekend with fans in attendance. I think it's very likely, to be honest, that we'll have fans at SummerSlam. Lots of other events, not just obviously pro wrestling, are starting to have fans back in attendance. Over here in the UK, which the restrictions have been very tight for a while, especially just around the winter time from Christmas to really about now. They've only just really started to open back up, and we're starting to see fans back at some events. Whether they're football events, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, in other countries around the world, stuff's starting to open up as well. We know that in the United States, certain states, because that's how it's done in the United States, it's done state by state, are starting to lift restrictions and starting to gradually open up. Obviously, we saw fans at WrestleMania 37. We saw fans in Jacksonville for the UFC last weekend as well. 15,000 inside an arena with no social distancing, which is madness. I mean, I know that was a hot topic among many backstage, and I know it was a hot topic among those in pro wrestling fans in the pro wrestling community, and people saying that, if UFC can do it, why can't WWE do it? I think, look, the atmosphere was fantastic. It was like going back in time, wasn't it? It was like going back to pre-pandemic, and the atmosphere and the event, it was great. it's still during a pandemic, and it still is, to me, incredibly reckless, and that hasn't changed my opinion on it. I know there is light at the end of the tunnel now, and that's exciting. I've lived it like everyone else has. But I still want people to be safe, and I still don't want people to catch the virus or anything like that. So the idea of going to an indoors arena, I think, is ridiculous, and I don't think WWE would be willing to do that yet. I'm sure they'll be tempted by seeing that UFC event, but as the report states, I think they want to go back to a stadium. For SummerSlam, one, it's outdoors, it's in the summer, it'll be, hopefully the weather will be good wherever they go. They'll be happy with that. Obviously with an outdoor show as well, and in a stadium, they can get more people in there. They want to have the biggest attendance in the United States since the pandemic. They wanted to do that for WrestleMania. They definitely want to do it for SummerSlam. They might be able to pull that off around the time of SummerSlam. Where do I think it would be? Again, I don't know the situation in all of these different states. I don't know the situation locally in all of these places, so I couldn't tell you where is and isn't opened up and all that kind of stuff. If you're from the United States, you can let us know in the comment section below, all that kind of stuff. I don't think it'll be Florida, because that's where they've been for the last nearly 18 months, and they had WrestleMania in Florida, and I think they probably want to venture out to another state in the United States. I think probably Texas is a good bet. I think for a variety of reasons. Obviously, and again, this is my limited knowledge here, Texas is pretty much opening up, or pretty much opened up, I think. Obviously, there is a plethora of stadiums they could use in Texas, all kinds of football stadiums, baseball stadiums, anything. That, Texas is a massive state. Again, it's a massive state, and it has a lot of people. So if they wanted to really get a lot of people in there, socially distanced or not, they could do that in Texas. It's a good pool of population pool as well. Another factor is as well that, of course, WrestleMania is in Texas next year. It's at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that they would want to almost have SummerSlam as a bit of a dry run for what they're going to do for Texas next year, and also to build up momentum and build up buzz of this great event happens in Texas in the summer, come back in April next year, because we're going to be bringing WrestleMania and it's going to be sold out and we're going to have 100,000 people inside that arena. I don't know if that's the case, but my point being is that WWE might want to do that at that period of time. So I would put my bet, if I had to pick, I would probably say it's going to be somewhere in Texas. Where that will be, I don't know. But I think probably Texas is probably a safe bet. But it's going to be exciting. I'm already excited for SummerSlam, and I'm excited to have fans back. And once we can get back to that position of having the new normal, whatever that is, and WrestleMania was evidence alone that just having fans back on television in the stadium, it was an unbelievable moment. It certainly added to both nights of WrestleMania, and hopefully we can get back to there very soon. But of course, as always, it's just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on WWE possibly talking to MLW, building a working relationship with them, and a possible rumor on the location of SummerSlam 2021? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube, get the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to WrestleNews365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.